George graduated from Berkeley. I was in the House then, and he came to work for me as my legislative assistant. And I thought, this young kid thinks he knows everything, and he does. To me, George was brilliant. Has an IQ beyond the ceiling. And he knows what he's doing most of the time. He didn't know what he's doing with me. Anyhow, no, he's a dear. After he worked for me in the legislature, in the House, he ran my first campaign for Senate. And I drove him crazy, really. And he survived. And I was elected, and he went on to work for Barbara Mikulski. Did you work for someone else before that?
For
No.
Lloyd Benson.
Hmm?
For Lloyd Benson.
Oh, yeah. Anyhow, then he went to work for Barbara Mikulski for 5 years. And it was really something to stay 5 years for Barbara Mikulski.
Yes.
But I loved her. I still love her. She did so much for this state and for the country. And to have George at her side, I'm sure he had an impact on some of the things that she did. And I want to commend you, George, for that. George has been on the council for 12 years.
16.
16, I'm sorry, my math was bad then. He had 4 terms, and he did done, in my opinion, an outstanding job. He doesn't always agree with his other council members, but that's good, because a lot of the times I don't agree with him, but I think his thoughts are important. You can't always have yes people. You have to have naysayers too. And George has been a rock as far as I'm concerned for this county. He will be even better as a county executive. And thank you. Was that his father?
Yes.
Anyhow, to tell you that George is like a son to me is putting it mildly. George has been in my family since he came from Berkeley. And his wife, Soraya, and his 2 boys, Daniel's here, but Chico is not. He couldn't make it tonight. He had another engagement. But you can't always make everything your father tells you to make. So Daniel is here to represent the family. But he has such a wonderful family life. And I am so proud of him and the things that he has accomplished. And I won't take too much of your time now. I just want you to know how much I love him. And I think he will be fantastic as a county executive, and we've got to get him elected. Don't you think?
Thank you so much. So grateful to you. Well, Ida Rubin, I am so grateful for the example that you've set of a leader with integrity, a leader who cares so much about the people that she represents. It was not easy working for Ida, and it isn't always easy working for me. I have a number of my staff here because we demand results and we make sure that we respond to the people who contact our office. And we've set a very high standard in my office of making sure that when people make the effort to contact their county council member, they're entitled to an answer. They're entitled to a satisfactory and prompt effort to answer their question and resolve their problem. And I want to say that 2 of my council office staff members are here. Chris Gillis, who has worked for me for 11 years, and Andrea Perotti, who's now going on 2 years. And I want to say that my staff has been the longest serving and most loyal at the county council, even though I set very high expectations for them. My chief of staff, Patty Vitale, is the longest serving chief of staff at the county council. And my campaign staff is here. Jessica Moore, my campaign director, who has been my friend for more than 20 years and has been on my staff for more than 10 years, and Karen Murphy, my outreach director and volunteer coordinator. And they will tell you that we expect a lot, but we also have a higher purpose. We are helping people every day. My office has a mission to make this county better and to respond to people and meet their needs. And I think that's part of why my staff has stayed with me for so long, because they know that we're getting things done, we're making a difference, we're making this community better. And that's the culture of customer service that I want to bring to the job of county executive. You're entitled to a county government that responds to you, and that when you interact with it, that it's a pleasure. And that should be the case whether you're a big employer or investor proposing to bring hundreds or thousands of jobs here, or whether you're a single mom trying to get social benefits for your children. County government works for you. And if I'm elected county executive, the very first thing that I will do is to seek to inspire and motivate our workforce in the same way that my council staff and my campaign staff have been motivated and inspired. And in the same way that when I worked for Ida Rubin when I was just out of college, I was motivated and inspired. In the same way when I worked for Senator Barbara Mikulski for 5 years, we were motivated and inspired to get things done for Marylanders, to make a difference, because we work for the people who elect us. I want to talk about the woman who was the greatest influence on my life. You've met Ida, you've heard about Senator Mikulski. I want to tell you about my late mother, Bridget Leventhal. And my father, Carl Leventhal, is here. My mother founded the Pediatric Oncology Center at Johns Hopkins. She treated children's cancer, and she did groundbreaking, pioneering research into treatments and therapies for a wide range of children's cancers. And my father, Carl Leventhal, is a neurologist, and they both taught me that healthcare is something to which everyone is entitled, no matter how much money you have, not just for those who can afford it. And so I've been very proud to devote my career in elected office to advancing public health, to improving population health, to make sure that even if you don't have health insurance in Montgomery County, because of the Montgomery Cares network of community clinics that I founded, you're going to get to see a doctor in Montgomery County. And not only that, but you're going to get care in your own language. Whether you speak Spanish or Chinese or Korean or Amharic or Iwe, we have doctors who will, and medical assistants and physician's assistants and personnel who will make sure that you understand the care that you're getting. Because if you don't understand what you're being told, you can't be medically compliant and we can't improve population health. My mom passed away in 1994, and my son Daniel was born in 1995. And my second son, Chico, was born in 1998. And when Chico was 1 year old, he was diagnosed with a rare cancer of the kidney called Wilms tumor. And we were very frightened and very nervous. But we knew that the best care available was at the Johns Hopkins Pediatric Oncology. So we took Chico there to be treated. And my wife, Soraya, who just got back from a trip, she's jet lagged, so she's not with us, but she sends her thanks to all of you. We were there at the hospital a lot of late nights saying to ourselves, you know, if only Bridget were here with us to give us advice. And people would say, well, you know, she's here. She knows. The thing is, my mother was a scientist. And if there was not empirical evidence of it, she didn't believe it. So although she was an observant Jew, she didn't actually believe in life after life. My mother believed that once you were gone, the lights were out. But let me tell you this. The doctors who treated Chico had been recruited and trained by my mother. The nurses and the physician's assistants who cared for Chico had worked with my mother. And the treatment therapies that were employed to cure Chico had been researched and pioneered by my mother. My mother's work saved the life of the grandson she never met. And so if you want to understand why I care so much about biotechnology and the life sciences and access to public health and making sure that Montgomery County advances the industry that is involved day to day in curing disease and alleviating suffering, it's because every day in elected office, I've striven to honor my mother, to honor her memory and the example that she left behind. And I want to tell you that it has made me a great admirer of strong women, and I have been a champion of women's capability, of equal pay, of access to health care. In addition to the Montgomery Cares Network, I've championed the Maternity Partnership Program, which provides access to prenatal care to expectant moms, reproductive rights, a woman's rights to choose. If I'm your county executive, you will have someone who cares deeply about equity and fairness for everyone, for men, for women, for people of every background. I bring a commitment to equity and social justice that I've not only adhered to as chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee, but that I want to bring as your next county executive. And first and foremost, it will be in the area of education. I mentioned that both of my parents are physicians. We value education in our family. I just got my PhD just a couple of months ago. And if I'm elected, I'll be the first county executive with a PhD. But that's the value that my family and I have placed on education, and those are the opportunities that my family has had, that we want to make sure that every child in Montgomery County, no matter which zip code he or she lives in, has equal access to opportunity and a bright future. And if you want a county executive who will work effectively and affirmatively and aggressively with our school system to make sure that we don't have unequal access, that we don't have de facto segregation in our schools, that the East County has every bit as much of an opportunity to shine and succeed as the other parts of the county, you really ought to vote for George Leventhal, because I will make that my priority every single day. Access to health care, access to opportunity, access to a great education, a culture of customer service. Those are the reasons I want to be your county executive. I'm not running as an outsider. There are candidates who will tell you that because they don't know anything about government or politics, and because they've never spent a day in the business, that you ought to give them the most significant consequential job in county government. And if that's appealing to voters, then voters will vote for that. That's not what I offer. I offer in-depth understanding of the mission of every county department, and a record of results, and a commitment to making government work for you. I hope you'll give me that chance. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for just a little bit of money. I know many of you have contributed here tonight. I know some of you have not. I'm in a very tough race. Every race is tough. I'm going to introduce a couple of the other candidates who are here and let them speak a word. Every race in this election is tough, and I thank those of you who are going to take the time and make the effort to learn about the many, many different candidates who are running. I've got a great chance to win. We just took a poll. It showed myself and Mark Elrich out in front in the low teens, and other candidates in single digits. So 58% undecided. So we've got a lot of work to do. I won't have the most money. There's a very, very wealthy, self-funding multimillionaire who will dump David Blair, who will dump an unlimited amount of money into the race. But he's got to do that because nobody knows him. He doesn't have a track record in the county or in the community. My name recognition in my poll was the highest of any of the candidates running, but I won't have the most money. But I am in the public campaign finance system, so that if you give me $150, it's worth $750 to my campaign. If you just give me $5, it's worth $35 to my campaign, because we are engaged in an experiment in democracy to reduce the influence of big money and magnify the influence and the importance of folks like you, middle class and upper middle class, homeowners and tenants from across Montgomery County. More than 1,000 people have expressed their confidence in my leadership by contributing to my campaign. I'm so humbled by that. More than 1,000. I've never had anything like that in a campaign before. And many of you here in the room have already given me the maximum contribution, and I'm grateful for that. And because I have those 1,000 grassroots contributors, we have a political base throughout this county. We have volunteers who will man the polls. I hope many of you will, who will put my sign in your yard. I hope you'll do that. Who will make phone calls, who will canvass their neighbors for me. We have people power. We don't have the most money, but we have the best grassroots organization and the broadest geographic support. There is no other candidate for county executive who has as much support as I have in the many different communities in this county, from Clarksburg, Damascus, Poolsville, all the way down to Tacoma Park, Silver Spring, Burtonsville, Briggs Cheney, all over, Hillendale, White Oak, where we are tonight. I'm hoping to do well. I'm hoping to follow Ida Rubin's legacy here in this great neighborhood. Ida was our District 20 state senator and state delegate. And you know, this road right here is the Ida G. Rubin Highway. I'm not kidding.
Yes.
The state of Maryland designated this road New Hampshire Avenue. So I want to thank Ida for her loyal support and her record of leadership, which I aspire to emulate. I want to acknowledge that a former elected official, Rizzi Qureshi from the city of Tacoma Park City Council, is a supporter. He's endorsed me. I'm glad that he's here. And then there are two candidates in addition to me. And by the way, you've got to work your way all the way down the ballot to vote for me. okay? Leventhal is the last name in the alphabet, so you gotta go through 5 other Democrats. So be patient, work your way down, all the way down to Leventhal. Running for the county council at large. I support him, I've known him for many years, and I'm gonna let him speak for a minute here. He would be an excellent county council member. He's got a nice personality. He's got a great professional background in budgeting and working with numbers. He's run for office before, he almost made it, didn't make it, served on the Democratic Central Committee, which I also did, so I appreciate how important that is. And a lot of involvement with a number of community organizations like the George B. Thomas Learning Academy and Impact Silver Spring. I hope that you'll vote first for George Leventhal for county executive, and then that you'll vote for Juan Dang for county council at large. Juan, why don't you come up and say a word?
George, and also Senator Ida Rubin. Thanks, George, for inviting me here today, and for that wonderful introduction. You know, I'm here to support George for a couple of things. First of all, he's got great experience. He knows the issues very well. You know, for the county executive race, we need someone who not only understands the issues, but who also understands the changing demographics of Montgomery County. Now, I've been campaigning for 11 months now, going to lots of events, and I see George is the person that I see the most at all these different events. And I'm talking about, you know, many of you will probably know that Montgomery County is over 1.1 million, almost 1.1 million residents, and about 1/3 are foreign-born. And so there are lots of events being held by lots of different groups. You know, the Latino community has lots of events, the African American community, and of course the Asian American community. And I'm talking Asian American community. I've seen him at events for, you know, Korean Americans, Chinese Americans, Vietnamese Americans, and it's just not. And it's not only, you know, during this year during the campaign. I've known George actually since 2002, when he first ran for the county council, when I was a board member of an organization called Impact Silver Spring, based in downtown Silver Spring. But and then I serve as chair and president of a nonprofit organization that helped resettle over 25,000 refugees and immigrants in this area. And so we would always invite the county council members and also the Board of Education members. But I know that, you know, we can always count on George. He would come to our annual picnic, and he would always come to our annual Lunar New Year events, and meet with our residents and with our fellow constituent. So I've always been an admirer of him, and I hope to one day fill his shoes. And it's big shoes to fill. But like I said, we need someone at the county council who not only understands the issues. I mean, he, as chair of the Health and Human Services Committee on the council, you know, he helped establish a network of 29 different clinics around the county that help provide free health care to folks who may not necessarily have insurance. And I think that's an incredible feat. But anyways, I myself am running for the county council at large. 3 things you should know about me. Number 1 is I'm a budget expert. I currently manage 3 multi-million-dollar budgets as a federal contractor for the federal government. I've been doing budgets for over 20 years now. And the council, it's important because the council is responsible for a $5.5 billion budget annually. Second thing about me is I'm a former refugee who grew up here in Montgomery County. My family and I were evacuated by the U.S. military just 48 hours before the fall of Saigon. And so we were lucky to be alive, but my parents lost everything after the war. So we had to start over when we arrived in the United States. And luckily, we found our way to Montgomery County, where we had welcoming neighbors and progressive policies, that helped us get back on our feet. And so, having lived through that experience, I understand the challenges of working families and immigrants, many of whom are still struggling to make ends meet here in our county. And the third thing about me is I've been a community leader serving our diverse communities for over 30 years now. I know I don't look it, but I started as a Boy Scout, became an Eagle Scout, and have been doing community service, serving on boards and commission. George mentioned that I served on the George B. Thomas Senior Learning Academy for 17 years now. We organize Saturday schools, tutoring kids in reading, writing, and math on Saturday mornings at 12 high schools around, mostly on the East County, because that's where most of the needs are. But I also serve to help eliminate health disparities. Work as a co-founder and former chair of the Asian American Health Initiative. So we definitely need. So I'm running because I want to ensure that Montgomery County is an equitable, safe, and welcoming community for all residents, regardless of where they came from. Because immigrants are like the lifeblood of our nation. They help boost the economy, and it's important for us to provide a safe and welcoming environment for them so that they can thrive, just like my family did when we first came here. Last thing is, once elected, my top 3 priorities is what I call JET. Jobs, education, and transportation. We need to create more good-paying jobs for our workforce. We need to provide more educational opportunities for our kids, throughout the county, regardless of where they live. And we need better transportation options for all of our residents to help reduce the traffic congestion. And with that, I also ask for your support and your vote as one of your 4 votes for County Council at Large on June 26, 2018.
All right, well done, my friend.
Thank you.
Now, I don't know if he wants to come all the way up or come on up. Great. So, you not only have to decide on 7 Democrats, you not only have to decide on 6 Democrats.
14 we are the best. 14 we are the best. 14
We're meeting the first Thursday of every month at the Twin Brook Baptist Church. Karen or Jessica can give you the details. We're very close. We can win this thing. I'm not the front runner, but I'm very close, okay? I like being the underdog. We're going to work really, really hard. I think we can make it with your help. I'm really, really glad you're here tonight. When I see a crowd like this here to support me, it really makes me feel like we can do this, we can win. So thank you so much. It means the world to me, to my family, my son, my dad, to my campaign staff, and my council staff that you're coming out to support the work that we're doing and the vision that we're offering. Thank you very, very much.
Let's go. Yeah, to all the sexy ladies, I said I love to see your bodies. Talk, you know I get a series. Hip hop, cause I'm for quite now. Yeah, oh boy, this one I crazy parties. Shake your body, let me see you fancy. Never get it, kind of hot with you. Let me see you shake your body, let me hot with you.
executive. Mr. George.
Hi, glad to be here. I hope to become your next Montgomery County executive. I've been serving on the Montgomery County Council for 16 years, and our current county executive, who is the most important person in county government, Mike Leggett, is retiring. He won't be running again this year. And so I'm hoping that the African immigrant community will come out and be heard at the polls. You need to register to vote. You need to register as a Democrat and participate in the Democratic Party's primary on June 26th. I'm asking for your vote, and I assure you that if the African immigrant community participates this year, it will make a big impression on all of the elected officials. This is the year to stand up and be counted and show up at the polls on election day.
Thank you so much. Mr. George, you talk so much about your religion, which is such a big thing, like for African community. A mother's love is the most important and the strongest band who believe Africa is more than that. And right there, I was just shocked. You talk about your mom. May she rest in peace. She was an immigrant.
My mother immigrated from London during the Blitz in World War II, and her parents brought her here as a small child. She was just 5 years old, and she came to California, where she attended UCLA, and then she went to Harvard Medical School and was at Mass General Hospital in Boston, which is where she met my dad. Then they both got jobs at NIH, and they moved me, I was just a little baby, to Montgomery County in the 1960s. So I've seen this great county over many decades. I remember it in the 1960s and the 1970s when it was a very different place than it is today. I think it's much better today because we have the great cultural richness of people who have come here from every part of the world, including Africa, because we offer a hope of success, great jobs, a growing economy, and lots of opportunity for people from immigrant backgrounds to make it here, and where we put a premium on language ability. The fact that you speak a different language is a big plus for our local economy. We should market ourselves as the international gateway to the nation's capital. Just as my parents moved to Montgomery County in the 1960s to look for jobs and opportunity, in the 21st century we can still be a magnet for talent and ability from around the world today.
That's amazing. We all needed that. We are all immigrants. And hearing that from you, and hearing that from somebody that is going to be our executive, it's hard, it's warm. We're happy that you felt our pain. You have been in our situation. You have families around you that have experienced immigration.
Yes, that's correct. So in addition to my mother immigrating here during World War II, my wife immigrated here in the 1980s as an adult. She is a Portuguese speaker from Brazil, and we've raised our 2 children in a multilingual, multicultural household. So I do understand the struggles that our immigrant community faces in coming to a new country, learning a different language, but ultimately, as my wife did with her own small business, becoming very successful, creating jobs and strengthening our local economy and providing an important service. My wife is a child care provider in our home, and so generations of parents have known that their children have excellent preschool education and safe care during the day, and my wife has employed people, and she's become a real pillar and a successful small business woman, having come here as an immigrant. So her story, I think, is very representative of what many newcomers to Montgomery County experience every year.
Thank you. We have another question for you. The African community out there wants to be a part in everything we do. So they have this concern about, they have kids with disabilities, and they also have like education problems going on. And they believe that maybe it's just for other kids. It's not reaching out to them. And I believe that you have made it clear and you have made it so important that it's for everybody. We all in Montgomery County have to enjoy that because it is our right to do it. So they want to hear from you to assure them that there is a place for them in getting all those ability, like getting stuff from kids that have trauma
That's right.
and education problems, like get to them and tell them what they want to hear about areas like that.
Well, thank you, Ruth. Everyone who lives here, pays taxes here, is entitled to a government that works, is entitled to a culture of customer service, no matter what you look like or what language you speak at home or what faith tradition you worship in. You're entitled to a response from your government. You belong right here in Montgomery County, Maryland, and you deserve a county government that listens to you and goes out of its way to respond to you. There's also a reciprocal obligation. We need our newcomers, our immigrant community, to participate in the government as well. So as an elected official, I have gone out of my way to get to know our immigrant communities, but I want to see our immigrant communities come to my building at the county council, and if I'm county executive, I want you to come to the public meetings and stand up and be heard and speak out, and most importantly, vote and participate on election day. That's how you will be responded to and how your rights can be exercised. But this community, the African immigrant community, belongs right here. This is your home now.
Oh, you talk about the fundraising going on. So we know that the system have had like two systems of fundraising, which the first one will be you going to a certain amount of people and getting contributions from them, and the other one is you go with the whole population, and you talk about if you have a candidate that gives $5 is equals to 10-5.
That's right. So we are mounting an experiment in democracy in Montgomery County this year with the public campaign finance system, where small contributions are matched from the public fund to become much larger and more powerful. So that if someone contributes just $5 to my campaign, it's matched with $30 for a total of $35. The most that I can accept is $150, which is matched with $600. So if an individual gives me $150 to my campaign at www.georgeleventhal.com and click on donate, it's worth $750 to me. So we're trying to minimize the influence of the super wealthy and maximize the opportunity to participate of those who have just ordinary middle class and upper middle class resources.
That's amazing. So now we have another talking spot for African communities. They have a lot of the disability kids that they don't have access to transportation.
Yes.
They have transportation problems. But looking at your projects, you've made sure that those things are actually you've put in place policies for those issues to be resolved. But it looks like it's not actually effective, or it's not touching every area of a person.
Well, of course we need to do a better job. Of course we need to provide more access to services, to education, and I'm certainly committed to that. I want to hear from the community. If there are community members who are not getting access to county services, I want to hear from them. If I don't hear from you, I don't know what you need. I want to respond, but unless you also reach out to the government and ask for help, I will respond if you contact my office, now as a council member, hopefully in the future as county executive. But the community also has to speak up and be heard, and that's what I'm encouraging, is a reciprocal obligation. I will go out to meet the community, but the community also has to speak up for its own needs. Fundamentally, the most important role of an elected official is to look out for those who most need a government on their side. People with disabilities, the homeless, the sick, the poor, those with substance abuse problems, the elderly. Vice President Hubert Humphrey used to say that the moral test of government was to look out for those in the dawn of life, the children, the twilight of life, the elderly, and the shadows of life, the elderly, the disabled, the sick, and the poor. And that's the philosophy that I bring to my work in elected office.
Wow, that's beautiful. And we have a lot of African communities, Ethiopians, Ugandans. We have a whole lot of and their bases here.
Yes, Montgomery County, Maryland is the second largest African immigrant community in the entire United States, and the largest community of Cameroonians and Ethiopians of any community in the entire United States. And that's something to be proud of, because so many capable and talented people have chosen this place to be their home.
Yeah, so when I've talked with some of them, and most of them, they are hard working people.
Yes.
They will put in their all, and they feel like this is given to them. They have always felt like that. And each time you talk to them about voting, participating, contributing, they feel like No, why would we contribute? Why would we participate? We don't feel like more attention is put to us.
Well, with your help, I hope we can communicate and indicate that I'm responsive, that I care, I want to listen, I want to get to know the community. That's all I can do is be sincere and honest and tell you that I'm an elected official who wants to respond to your needs.
Now you hear it from Africans, Ugandans, Ethiopians, Sierra Leone, Liberians, Cameroon, Nigerians. Where you at? You can hear it from him. He is here for you. He is here for us. We need to meet. We need to come out. We need to participate. If we don't reach out, his hands can't reach us. So we need to come out. We need to meet with him. Be part of it. Be part of this extraordinary events going on. Be part of all the things coming, resources. There is more than enough resources. We put too much work to it. It is time for us to enjoy. And he is the person that is bringing it to life, bringing it to us. We need to participate. We need to be active. We need to be present at it. We thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth. This was
We
great.
thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to see you.
It is wonderful.